Now that we've seen how to use Fiddler to trace traffic between standard web browsers and web servers, it's also true that there's times we want to trace other HTTP protocol conversations, things such as web services, and this can be done pretty easily in multiple ways, but one is to set the actual .proxy setting. We can also use the web config, the default proxy. And in the case of a WCF service, we can use the web config again, or we could configure the particular endpoints. So again, by default, these are typically not sent through Fiddler, so we can't see the requests even though they use HTTP. So we're going to show how to set these settings so that we can direct this traffic through Fiddler so we can analyze it like we do other HTTP traffic. Now let's see various ways that we can configure so that we can trace the HTTP conversations going back and forth between this ASP.NET page and first a web service and also a WCF service. So by default, we'll see we're making two calls here. We'll request this page. And if we look at the request, we can see all that we see is the request for the actual ASPX page. So we have various options for how to do this. For the ASMX, we can actually directly set the proxy. So here I'm just setting it directly to go to this machine at port 8888, which is where I'm running Fiddler. So if I turn that on, I can re-request the page again. I'm just going to hit Control F5 so it forces a refresh. Now we can see the page request, but we can also see the actual web service request. So we can see the SOAP envelope and the request that went back and forth for that call. Another option that works in general for both web services and WCF is to turn on the default proxy. So we'll go into our web config and set our default proxy. We'll say bypass on local false because I do want it to track. And again, I'm sending it to that same address. So if I save this again and hit Control F5 in the browser, we'll see that not only can we see the page request, but now we can also see the web service call and the WCF service call as well. So again, there's many times where you're using APIs, web services, WCF. They use HTTP, but by default they're not being trapped because they don't by default have their proxy configured to go to Fiddler. And we saw two ways to do that for both of these instances.